YouTube. Say hello to YouTube, everybody. Come on, do it. Because we are going to talk about the review in its fullest and its finest. What is uwu-tube and why do I hate it here? Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone for the PlayStation 1 came out in 2001, the same year as the movie. This is what we're going to be talking about. The game is based off of the book and movie together. You play as Harry Potter, the main protagonist, obviously, and you go through his Hogwarts journey.
Nice.
For a game adaptation of something, I think that they did pretty okay, especially since they took a lot of the movie aesthetics that make you see the movie and then you play the game, you can kind of correlate the two, but there's also things from the book that they put in, like thieves. So the story is somewhat linear to what the movie and book were about. A lot of it was obviously not in there because, well, it's a game. And a lot of that stuff would be really boring and there's not really a way to make it fun, right? And this is supposed to be a fun game. They had a bunch of mini games where you could play Quidditch, and I consider the spells to be like a mini game because you have to do the patterns and the time patterns. You learn a bunch of spells and you progress through the game to basically save everybody from Voldemort getting his hands on the Sorcerer's Stone. Pretty simple. Overall, I would have to say, when it comes to gameplay and controls, did not enjoy the run and climb jump combo. So like running at something is how you would jump up on it or climb on it. And I do fail at chess, indeed. So the mechanic of jumping and running at things are not exactly my favorite. It was very weird to me. The jumping and climbing and stuff kind of makes it difficult when you're running in the attic, when you're racing Peeves, for example, because the beam is like thin. There's a lot of jumping spots. There's a lot of slippery spots, and you can easily fall off, right? And if you think about it, the PlayStation 1 controller didn't have joysticks.
What happened? It can't be!
I know, shocker, right? So when it comes down to the whole thing, I did use joysticks because I'm playing on a PlayStation 4 controller because I played emulated since I no longer have a PlayStation 1. I did own this game when I was a kid, so I bought it, When I was a kid, I never finished the game, so it was nice to kind of finish it. I did enjoy that, to kind of see what the ending was all about, right? The game is short. Even if you want to 100% it, you really just have to find those cards to 100% it, really. And it only really takes a few hours. Like, you could probably finish this whole game in less than 5. A lot of the spell timing, so like, for example, Incendio, specifically, it was very weird because I'm used to playing like rhythm games where you have to be on the spot, right? Like as soon as it's in the circle, that's a perfect, you hit it and then you go. In this game, if you hit it while I was in the circle, it oftentimes registered as late. So I had to hit it early before it got to the circle for it to count, right? So I felt like that was a little weird. Flying was kind of difficult. It wasn't inverse. So if you took your joystick down, it went down, and up goes up. Commonly when you have flying games, like it's the inverted Y controls, right? So it wasn't like that. I found it quite challenging to just control the broom in general. But overall, I would have to say the game is relatively easy in the way that they tell you what to do, they tell you where to go, for the most part, So overall, I think that like the game is pretty easy. There are a few spots that are kind of difficult, and one of them happens to be Gringotts, and I've never seen like slippery or the floor is very slippery. So that makes like the pre-challenges a little bit difficult, but nothing too hard, right? And then you actually go into the vault and you have to control the minecarts, and that's where it gets hard. It gets so hard, especially if you're trying to get all the things, right? We're gonna take a look at what this looks like. This is difficult. If you think about it, if you have only a D-pad, it is quite difficult to make sure you get all of the coins, to get all the gems to stuff, It's not easy. Not easy. It was definitely not the easiest part of the whole game. I feel like this person has like 100%ed. Yeah, 100%. Insanity. Literally insanity. When I was doing this was way harder. My minecart was flowing all over the place. It was quite the challenge. But yeah, this is probably the hardest part of the game, honestly. Followed up by that that last fight with the things, But yeah, that's what we had for gameplay and controls, really. It's not super difficult. It's short, so I would have to say overall, for the time, not too bad. I do think it's kind of short, even for 2001. Let's just jump into graphics. Let's just get it out of the way. Graphics. Graphics. Graphics is like the biggest gripe everyone has with the game, other than like the short gameplay, I guess. But really what it comes down to is the graphics are horrendous. The low poly characters make for amazing memes, but they are not super aesthetically pleasing, right? I would say that the world itself, for the time, they did a really good job with the texture to create the world the way it's supposed to be. Like, you go in there, it does have that magical feeling to it. They did make it look like Hogwarts, I think. I think they did a decent job, right? And so, really, the graphics just really bother me when it comes to the characters. Some of their faces are absolutely insane, creepy, and just outright, like, I don't know what. But, of course, we always have the memes, which is probably the best part. To go with the graphics, the sounds were, I would say, okay. There were a lot of spots where the music was really good, and it followed, like, the music themes from the movie, which made you, like, kind of feel immersed. The sound effects and stuff like that matched really well, like your footsteps and the frogs and stuff like that. But music was really limited. Like, most levels didn't have music. If they did have music, it was like only at the beginning and for like a short period of time. So I feel like there should have been a little bit more music to give more of that magical, mysterious vibe. So if there was one thing, I'd be like, please, more music. As for replayability, which is one of our criteria that we're really out here trying to figure out, is it replayable? Is it worth playing again in 2024? Replayability. The game is short, even if you're 100%ing. There's not a lot of different routes to take. It's pretty linear. I don't think that it's really worth playing again unless you played it when you were younger and it has that nostalgia hit for you. Like, you got a couple hours and you just want to grab it from the emulator, whatever. Okay, like, sure. But if you're gonna go back and play it now as somebody who never did play it, doesn't have that nostalgia, I don't think it's really worth going back. It's kind of like a one and done type of game, in my opinion. As someone who grew up with the series and the craze and everything going on, I mean, I literally was like a young child when the first movie came out, right? They did a good job with the magical feeling, right? They definitely tried to make you feel like you were, you know, Harry in this Hogwarts world, right? The game, most parts were easy. I'm not very good at gaming, so if I say it's relatively easy, that's saying something, right? The lack of replayability to change it up is kind of iffy. I mean, like, I definitely go back and play games again that are like this. You don't really replay them differently. You just kind of play the same thing over and over. But I will say, for a movie and book like adaptation, like the game being an adaptation from the movies and the book, I would say they did a relatively good job. They got all the main key points, which made it really nice. And for its time, it was one of the best-selling PS1 games. I think they sold 80 million copies or something, you know? So that's a pretty big deal, right? Back in its time, it was amazing. Everyone loved it. It was, you know, well received. But the hero of the story is you. What did you think about the game? Did you play it when you were younger? Do you have any opinions on the whole thing? Are the graphics so bad that you can't play it again? Would it have that nostalgia hit for you? Why or why not would you play it? I don't think it has stood the test of time, unfortunately. I do think that there are better games out there from the older days, but overall, it is not a bad game. If you have anything you want to say about the game, please let me know. I'm always open to reading all the cool things that you guys have to say about it. And also, I'm open to suggestions for other games at any point in time.